Hi friends, thank you so much for connecting with me. Appreciate you giving me a few minutes of your day, and I hope that you've had a good week. So we're continuing our series where we've been talking about the 6 different culture statements that really identify who we are as a reunion community, right? And we began by talking about pupils, that we are apprentices of Jesus, like all of life is a learning experience. We talked about culture of table, that we open our hearts and lives for people. And today I want to talk about this thing that is really central to who we are at Reunion, but also central to who we are as a BIC larger denomination, and really as an Anabaptist community. And that is this, the key word today is peacemakers, and talking about a culture of reconciliation. So our reunion culture statement says, like I just said, peacemakers, a culture of reconciliation. We pursue Jesus's way of peace and serve as agents of reconciliation in all things. We pursue Jesus's way of peace, and we serve as agents of reconciliation in all things. Now, you know that I've been kind of weaving in our BIC, larger BIC denomination value statements. And today I actually want to do more than just weave it in. I want to really base my talk on the BIC 10 core values. I got there eventually. And the BIC value says, pursuing peace. We value all human life. We value all human life, and we promote forgiveness, understanding, reconciliation, and non-violent resolution of conflict. There's a book that was written, or actually a book that was compiled, I should say, of 10 different essays that people wrote about the 10 different core values for BIC. And I'd like to, I'm going to lean a little bit on the essay that was written by Harriet Sider Bixler. She wrote an essay on this BIC value statement. Again, let me read it. Pursuing peace, we value all human life and promote forgiveness, understanding, reconciliation, and nonviolent resolution of conflict. So let me just unpack that statement a little bit in the next couple of minutes. The BIC value statement begins by saying that we value all human life. And so, you know, we would probably, all of us, agree with that. We would quickly look to, Genesis 1:27 that says that all human beings were created in God's image. So we would quickly say no to racial inequality. We would quickly say no to gender inequality. We would quickly condemn the exploitation of one person or one people group over another person or people group. We believe in equality of all human beings, right? But the author of this essay, Harriet Sider Bixler, she was quick to point out a problem. If we say that we believe we value all human life, does that mean every human life, right? So the author quickly points out, what about the person who's on death row, who was a serial killer and dismembered, their victims? What about all the people that they injured, like in family members, and all the people that they hurt so deeply? What about, do we value the life of a dictator, an evil dictator of any particular country, who has slaughtered his own people and grown rich by stealing the wealth of the country? What about that person? Or bringing it a little bit closer to home, what about that person that has wounded us so deeply? And, what do we do with that? Like, do we really value all human life? And, to that, I don't know if it was Harriet or if this was my own interjection, but to that, I think about Matthew 5, verse 43, 44, where Jesus says that you've heard the law that says, love your neighbor and hate your enemy. But I say, love your enemies and pray for those who persecute you. So if we value all human life, does that actually mean everybody, right? And and what about the person who has hurt us, so deeply, or that truly evil person? Then the statement goes on to say that we promote different things. We value all human life and we promote forgiveness. We value human life, all human life, and we promote forgiveness, even for the people who are just evil in their core, or people who have hurt us deeply. So this issue of forgiveness is a huge one, obviously, and I'll just say really quickly that regardless of if a person asks for forgiveness, or regardless of if a person faces the consequences of their evil or of their bad decisions, regardless of anything that the person does or anything that happens to the person, consequences, whatever, regardless of any of that, Jesus teaches us very clearly, for my own benefit, that I need to learn to forgive that person, right? And he's very clear. Matthew 6, where this is in the Sermon on the Mount, the disciples have asked them to teach us to pray, and as part of that teaching to pray, what we call the Lord's Prayer, he says, forgive us our sins as we have forgiven those who sin against us. It's just assumed we ask for forgiveness and we give forgiveness. Then Matthew 18, Peter is talking to Jesus, and he asks Jesus, Lord, how often should I forgive someone who sins against me? 7 times? No, not 7 times, Jesus replied, but 77 times, right? This speaks to the repeat offender. How often, should I keep forgiving? It's not for their benefit, it's for my benefit that I need to learn to forgive even the repeat offenders. And then Jesus models what forgiveness is all about. He's hanging on the cross, Luke 23, and he says, Father, forgive them, for they don't know what they are doing. And so, for the people, for the soldiers who actually, nailed Jesus to the cross, for the leaders who really are responsible for putting him there, did they ever ask for forgiveness? Jesus, we're so sorry that we did this to you. Will you please forgive us? And no, they didn't ask for forgiveness from Jesus for murdering him. Did they face the consequences of their actions? Probably not. But regardless of that, Jesus releases them and he says, Father, forgive them. And then key statement, for they know not what they are doing. They know not what they are doing. And that leads to my second thought, or actually not just my second thought, but as I follow along, we value all human life, we promote forgiveness, and we promote understanding. We promote understanding. The ability to at least attempt to understand. So in Jesus's words, forgive them, for they don't know what they're doing, right? There's some kind of, I'll just leave that there. I don't want to run down that trail. But we promote understanding, the difference that it makes when we at least attempt to understand that person who hurt us, or if there's some kind of an adversary, somebody that we don't see eye to eye with, trying to understand their point of view. And, asking questions like, we've talked about this before. What don't I understand? What don't I know about the situation? Or what, trying to understand what would lead this other person to think or believe or behave a certain way, right? Trying to understand why they would do what they would do. And it's a big part of the reconciliation, and a big part of the healing process is understanding, or at least attempting to understand, what's going on in the other person's mind. So listening, of course, is a very, very important part of this peace process, right? If you're part of our community, you probably know that back in September, Kathy and I went on a bit of a family heritage tour for me. My grandfather was Norwegian, my grandmother was Swedish, and so we went to Norway and Sweden and saw, the old family homestead and everything. When we were in Oslo, Norway, probably a highlight of our trip, apart from the personal family things, a highlight of the trip for me was visiting the Nobel Peace Center. It was a fascinating couple of hours that we spent there. The Nobel Peace Center is in Oslo and has so much interesting just people and quotes and all kinds of interesting things. Towards the end of the little tour thing, as you work your way through, they have dedicated a whole section to listening, to understanding other people. And I figure that if the Nobel Peace Center thinks that it's important enough to dedicate a section of their center to listening, then maybe there's something for us to learn. And in fact, on the wall of this section, was some writing, just some writing. And you're not supposed to take pictures in there, but I went into stealth mode, not all that stealth actually, and I took some pictures of the wall because it was just so powerful and I just wanted to capture what it said. Here's what it said on the wall. Listening is more than just hearing. It requires focus and presence and may be more difficult than you think. Becoming a good listener requires you to listen with care and empathy. Becoming a good listener requires you to listen with care and empathy. It can help you develop a deeper understanding, there's that word, deeper understanding and new perspectives. Listening is a technique that must be practiced. Here you have 6 listening tips, and then I'm going to put them on the screen here for you. Are you listening? Listen to what is being said. Do not let your own thoughts and prejudices interfere with your ability to listen. Do not give advice unless it's requested. 3, do not interrupt. Let the other person finish speaking. 4, don't take over the conversation by drawing parallels to your own experiences. Allow the other person their time. You will get yours. Be empathetic and show understanding for the other person's situation. Try to understand the other person without becoming upset yourself. Do not presume to know the other person's opinions. Now do you know why I took a picture of the wall? Because there's so much jam-packed into those things, and we could really, unpack each of those statements alone. But my point is this, that you see how there's a progression of thought in this BIC value statement. First of all, we value all human life, even the people that we're at odds with or have different opinions about. And therefore, we promote now I'm forgetting my own, we promote forgiveness. Yes, forgetting my own train of thought. Therefore, we promote forgiveness. And in order to forgive, we promote understanding, because understanding is a very, very big part of learning the process of forgiveness. We promote understanding. And then finally, we promote reconciliation. So, again, we could talk so much about reconciliation. Paul in 2 Corinthians talks about our ministry of reconciling human beings to God, a vertical reconciliation. But also Paul talks in Ephesians 2 about reconciling horizontal reconciliation with other people, right? And so in Ephesians 2, Paul is talking about reconciling two people groups, two cultures, two groups of people that have very, very different views on life and religion and just very different worldviews. And Paul is talking about bringing those two people groups together in reconciliation. And Paul was talking to in his modern day, he was talking about Jews and non-Jews, what are called Gentiles in the Bible. He's talking about bringing these two people groups together, which was a very, very significant thing, right? And so look at what Paul says. He's speaking to Gentiles. Don't forget that you Gentiles, or in other words, you non-Jewish people, you used to be outsiders. You were called names. You were called uncircumcised heathens by the Jews. And then skipping down, in those days, you were living apart from Christ. You Gentiles, you non-Jewish people, were living apart from Christ. You were excluded from citizenship among the people of Israel. You lived in this world. Oh, sorry, I'm messing up my screen here. You lived in this world without God and without hope. But now, this is a transition statement, or transition two words. Like, this is what it used to be like. You were outsiders, you were living apart from Christ, but now you have been united with Christ Jesus. Once you were far away from God, but now you have been brought near to him through the blood of Christ. And this is how Jesus did it. For Christ himself has brought peace to us. He united Jews and Gentiles into one body. In his own body on the cross. He united Jews and Gentiles into one body when, in his own body on the cross, he broke down the wall of hostility that separated us. Jesus broke down the wall of hostility that separated, in Paul's time, Jews and Gentiles. But I would argue that today Jesus is able to break down the wall of hostility between us and other individuals or other people groups, people that we look down on, people that we are at odds with. Jesus, through his death on the cross, by modeling it himself, again, going back to what he said, Father, forgive them, by modeling it for himself, Jesus made it possible for us to find, to value all human life, to offer forgiveness, have understanding, and to be reconciled with God, yes, but with others. So on Sunday, we'll have a conversation about this. We'll talk about, who are the people that we find it difficult to understand, who are the people we find it hard to forgive, and then we'll talk, we're going to talk a little about Matthew 5. But anyways, if you can be with us on Sunday, look forward to seeing you. Food will be served at 10:30. Worship and conversation will begin at 11. Okay, God bless you, friends. Have a great day.